no, because actually we need to talk about it. I read On the Shore by Laura Pavlov, and she's never been one of my favorite authors, but she was starting to become a comfort author. Not anymore. I wrote the most rancid review on Goodreads. Do I regret it? No. I think it needed to be said. I rated this book 2 stars. How this book has a 4.37 average star rating on Goodreads beats me. Let's start by saying my expectations for this book were already low, okay? After the disappointment that was Georgia and Maddox's story, I was well aware that my time in Cottonwood Cove was probably coming to an end, sooner rather than later. Alas, here we are. The writing in these novels just become excruciatingly more painful the more she puts out. It is all tell and no show. There's no emotional connection to create with the characters. Not to mention the writing just becomes even more formal the more we dive into it. The way they talk is awkward, uncomfortable, and just completely outside the realm of believability. I don't like to undermine an author's writing choices, especially since they are the creator of whatever story they choose to tell. That being said, I've just been infuriated with the way in which some of my favorite characters' stories are being written. Everything just seems so out of character. These are not the people I fell in love with in Hugh and Lila's book, the first book in the series. I was so nervous to start this book purely because of the glimpses we got into Lincoln and Brinkley's relationship in the previous 2 novels. Lincoln just seemed like a pretentious douchebag, and would you look at that? He is toxic masculinity to his core. He's so adamant about wanting the best for this girl, but let me tell you, actions speak louder than words. There was also quite literally no plot. I won't even get into that. As I mentioned, all of my thoughts are up on my Goodreads. But let me just share some quotes with you. You want to know my story? Not particularly, she said, but the world wants to hear it, so I wouldn't mind telling it. You sure you can handle it? Well, shiver me timbers. Oh my god. I am so scared. Get over yourself. Be sober real. Spoiler alert, it wasn't and will never be that deep. She shouldn't pass up this opportunity either, because he's the GOAT of the NFL, which you couldn't forget even if you wanted to, because it's mentioned literally every other page. The versatility is so good. If I have to see that word being used unironically one more time, I think I may become violent. It gets even worse. But it was his abs that had my attention. The man had at least an 8-pack. Girl, please be so for real. At least I am begging authors to stop writing unrealistic protagonists. But let me tell you, Brinkley is supposed to be this independent girl boss, but she let that man dog her. He basically gaslit her into being in a relationship with him, and no one can convince me otherwise. Oh my god. I also don't know what this author's obsession is with the word giant schlong. I wasn't joking. That is so embarrassing. Nothing will be as traumatizing as Mount Caucasaurus. Yes, she actually wrote that, read that back, and approved. She said, oh, the girlies are gonna love this one. Why that didn't raise anyone's brows, no one questioned that, is beyond me. But what's done is done, okay? Oh my god. I forgot about this one. So she wrote, and I quote, how do you say that word actually? Aphrodisiac? Aphrodisiac? That doesn't sound correct. Okay. Aphrodisiac? I already forgot how to say it. The man's stank was an aphrodisiac. Please put me out of my misery. I don't know how much more of this I can take. I am not God's strongest soldier despite what he believes. To put into perspective just how juvenile her writing feels to me, I skimmed through this smut too. I didn't even want to read the smut. I wish it didn't exist. Also, The stereotypes in all of the books in the series are wild. Not every story needs to end with the couple getting married and having children. This quote makes me so manic. I don't think I've ever read a more traumatizing line in my entire life. I would resort myself to reading Wattpad for the rest of eternity as opposed to reading this line again. Oh my god. I can't even say it out loud. It's so embarrassing. So to put it into perspective, one of Brinkley's siblings is getting married. So naturally all of their cousins come to this wedding. The cousins were the main characters of the last series this author wrote. Apparently, like, all of the cousins are pregnant. What's in that water? I don't want to know, but keep it there. One of the cousins says, and I quote, "Oh my god, I don't want to do this. Yes, my hot husband put a baby in me. I was waiting to tell you when we were all together." I said cut the cameras right now. What is going on? Somehow this is worse than someone telling you they're trying for a baby. I would rather have someone come up to me and tell me they were raw dogging it every night than hear that again. I won't even get into all of my other complaints. I think I'm just preaching to the choir on this one, but needless to say, I will not be reading the next book in the series. I read this one out of spite purely because Valentine PR turned down my ARC request. They only did it because I also wrote a rancid review for the previous book, so I don't blame them. But it actually wasn't that bad. I looked back at it. Who am I kidding? Anyway, I wish that I could wake up with amnesia. I need to bleach my eyeballs. I'm just gonna forget that book ever existed. I think I might block the author on literally everything. Okay, so it's currently Monday night. It is almost 11:30. I just finished reading Love Me Do by Lindsay Kelp. Let me tell you, I am absolutely obsessed with this book. I didn't think I was going to be, so I definitely thought I was going to enjoy this book because it is endorsed by Emily Henry herself. She says, I'll read anything she writes. Well, what a coincidence, because I will read anything that Emily Henry writes, and she can do no wrong. So naturally, I am going to take any and every recommendation she gives me, but it just completely exceeded my every expectation. When I tell you, I read this in one sitting and completely unintentionally. I am well aware that you are well aware that I am planning on reading 5 books in 5 days, but it was very much on a whim, and I didn't think I was going to go through with it, but alas, here we are. So essentially, Phoebe Chapman is a greeting card writer. She's just gotten out of a nasty relationship, or I shouldn't say just. About 2 years ago, she got out of a nasty relationship, but we all, I was gonna say been there, done that, but not me. Condolences. But essentially, she is traveling all the way from London to the US for a well-needed vacation to visit her sister, who also moved to the US from the UK. Now, it is the week of Phoebe's ex's wedding, so she's spiraling, but is in absolute denial, as she should be. But her sister, being the workaholic that she is, has to fly all the way from Hollywood Hills to Seattle for a business trip, meaning this beautiful mansion is all Phoebe's for the week. So naturally, she's doing some exploring. Okay, we're all a little nosy, except she's got the right to be it. The price you pay for being a sibling, okay? So she stumbles upon her sister's hot carpenter neighbor. What was I saying the other week? That I wanted to read more carpenter romances. I believe what I said was construction worker romances, but they're in the same genre, okay? Are they the same? I think they may be the same. They're dealing with wood, okay? He's also a bird watcher. The next morning, her sister's personal trainer lets herself into the house. Immediately now, my absolute worst fear ever. I still run down my hallway from my bathroom to my bedroom after turning the light off, so you get the vibe. But essentially, we come to learn that Belle, her sister's personal trainer, is deeply in love with this man, okay? So Phoebe, being the matchmaker that she is going to get them together. Except Phoebe is once again in denial. She loves this man. She's down so bad, and for once I actually understand, because he's a carpenter that bird watches. So they come up with this master plan that she is going to write him a love letter. She being Belle, except Phoebe is gullible and naive, and she's got a soft spot for the girl, and you would too, because she is absolutely delightful, brings so much light and playfulness to the story. So Phoebe writes this letter for Belle to give to Ren, except Phoebe is going to be the one to deliver it to Ren. It is very clear that Ren, he's got a little thing for our girl Phoebe, okay? A crush, if you will. Do you call it that at your grown age? I don't even know. I am also a taxpayer. I should know this. But essentially, they're spending more time together. They're both in denial. It's contagious, apparently. So Ren decides that after reading this deeply moving love letter, he's gonna ask Belle out on a date, except she cannot act normal around people to save her life. I can say that because I also cannot do that, ever, clearly. I also just want to put into perspective that as if you couldn't love Ren anymore, because once again, may I remind you, he is a carpenter. In the top 3 hottest careers a male protagonist can have, okay, in my opinion, which should also be your opinion, because how can it not? Anyway, the house he is staying in is not actually his house, it's his grandparents' old house, except his brother is trying to sell it, so Ren is renovating it, or giving it a little uplift, okay, so they can get the most bang for their buck. Except Ren doesn't want to sell it because he's a romantic at heart, okay? He's got so many memories in this house, God bless his soul. Neither does his dad, but men clearly cannot stand up for themselves to save their lives, apparently. But in this novel, we beautifully silence male voices. He doesn't get an opinion or rights, okay? I'm just joking. All the love, all the love. Anyway, despite being outvoted, the brother still wins, and for some reason, Ren is still deciding to pour his heart and soul into this house. Tell me he's not the sweetest little man you've ever seen in your entire life. Anyway, what I'm trying to say... What was I trying to say? Where were we? Oh yes! And then we get introduced to Myrna. I don't think I'm saying that correct. I apologize. Myrna. She was a beloved actress of the past. It is giving very much Evelyn Hugo. I say that because I based my entire personality around it and will continue to do so for the rest of my life. But essentially, her mail gets delivered to Phoebe's sister's house. So Phoebe, being the lovely person that she is, understands the laws of karma, decides she is going to give this mail to the woman. Except the woman doesn't open the gate, so Phoebe has to climb over the gate to deliver her mail, and then being the girl boss that she is, Miss Moore, our retired actress, says, come back tomorrow. I actually don't want this mail today. Come back tomorrow. Okay. I respect it, honestly. I can't even be upset. She knows her worth. So then, Myrna and Phoebe develop this lovely relationship. When I tell you I'm in love with this woman, which one? Yes. I want to tell you exactly what I said in my Goodreads review because my mind was actually working then. Oh yes, I said she's got the witty commentary and sarcastic nature I long for. I stand by that statement. I also just love rich people, so we get along very well. I was also very surprised by how much I didn't mind Ren's lack of page time. It very much seemed as though it was a story that revolved more around womanhood and self-discovery than romance. Also, for everyone that is asking me for closed door romance recs, she's for you. Well, there is a smut scene toward the end, but you could blink and miss it. Truthfully, it's only about 2 pages, not very detailed, very much like Emily Henry's writing in that sense. It gives you the allure and not much more. There are a couple cliches that you could roll your eyes at, just pointing out the lack of believability, but I personally think it goes to serve the point that life isn't as complicated as we make it seem. As your resident smut girly, I usually tend to nitpick a book's pacing when that aspect is involved, purely because it usually is the motivating factor for a lot of other elements in the story. But there was just enough of everything to keep a critic like me thoroughly satisfied, so I'm just saying, if you're looking for a book or author to cure your Emily Henry hangover, I believe this may be the solution for you. I am a stickler for book recommendations, so I read a lot of books, obviously. It is my entire life, but I only recommend a select number of the ones that I read. I quite literally think there may only be 25 books that are my holy grail recommendations. I pride myself on only giving you what I believe to be the best the book world has to offer. I also just want to mention that she is a Swiftie through and through, okay? When I tell you the dedication was so Swiftie coded. So the dedication says, "Dear Emma Guns, it's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me." Obviously a nod to anti-hero, but then she said, "And the answer is more bralettes." So I definitely thought that was a nice touch. There were so many other sly Taylor Swift lyrics. Oh yes, I did rate this 4 out of 5 stars. I'm not sure if that's gonna end up being the end-all be-all rating, but it is at the current moment. So Let Me Do by Lindsay Kelk comes out on September 12th of this year. It was an advanced reader's copy, so thank you to HarperCollins for that. I love you forever and always. You are my people. But I think the next book I am going to read, also my people, Berkeley Romance. We're besties, okay? They are my found family. So this was also a gifted copy. It is With Love from Cold World, and let me tell you, we opened it together. I am so excited to dive into this one. So it is all about Lauren and Asa. They are working at this amusement park called Cold World, not nearly as popular as its other Florida counterparts. Lauren is a very uptight, take her job seriously individual. Asa is the complete opposite, naturally, opposites attract. He is all about, and I quote, "finding ways to enliven his days at Cold World." Once again, I think we're all taking our job a little too seriously, okay? It was never that deep. You are being paid minimum wage, act like it. I say that as one girlie that took her job way too seriously and is now reaping the effects of that. When the owner asked Lauren and Asa to propose something, anything really, to raise more revenue, their rivalry heats up as they compete to come up with the best idea. I didn't think there was a rivalry, okay? But I always compete with men, so I can't even blame her. So this has been called electric and imaginative and sexy. I love a smutty rom-com. I also want to talk about this cover because I once again mentioned in my last video that I think this should be the new cartoon cover, because Done and Dusted by Lila Sage also took this tone of a cover. It's giving comic. I love it. Okay, let's keep doing more of this. Nobel Peace Prize to whoever designed this. Also, the tattoo on his arm, okay. It also says hot days and even hotter nights. On the spice scale, what is this? I don't want to look at any of the reviews. I am very much a cynic when it comes to books, I suppose. I don't think that's the correct word. But essentially, I get the premonition that I'm even going to slightly dislike a certain aspect of this book. Not even the book in its entirety, just an aspect of it. It all goes downhill. It's around the same length as the last one. It's 366 pages. Actually, it's the exact same length as the last one. Almost, give or take a page. I think the last book was 367 pages. Okay, so it is currently Wednesday afternoon. It is 3:30. At the pace I'm going, essentially I'm reading an entire book a day, but instead of it being one complete book, it'll be the last half of one book and the beginning half of another book. So today we finished with Love from Cold World. This is by Alicia Thompson. I've never read anything by her before. I'm a little conflicted on what to rate this, purely because I enjoyed it. It was such a cute and fun read, but reflecting on it, it wasn't anything extraordinary. I don't think it was mediocre. I genuinely enjoyed the plot, the characters, the setting, just everything about it. But the romance aspect was definitely lacking. I say this because it's portrayed as this enemies to lovers workplace romance. I definitely think you are a normal civilian, so you need to act like it. Technically, she just couldn't take a joke. Lauren is this uptight bookkeeper. Any interaction she had with Asa was purely him just trying to get a rise out of her, not to start an argument, but purely to have a conversation. So I'm a little confused. It also was a little confusing in terms of the romance. We are a week into the relationship and they're already telling each other they love each other. It's obvious that he's had feelings for her for quite some time now. It is definitely a he falls first romance. She second guesses herself a lot, so much so to the point where it can be a little concerning. I think maybe there's some deeper traumatic issues we need to go to therapy for. Let's look into that, okay? You and your big girl job, your big girl money, let's do it. They actually do talk about that a little in the book, that it just wasn't for her because, as we are all well aware, therapy is most definitely not one size fits all. I can attest to that. I definitely think it was more character driven than plot driven. There were a lot of different plot points going on, but not annoyingly so. So I was able to keep track of almost all of them. There would be times where one would come up and I would say, oh, I forgot about that. But it wasn't abrupt. It was more of just a thought in the back of your mind. So I think I'm gonna go with a 3.75 on this one. The epilogue was not what I expected it to be. I don't want to spoil anything, but the banter was definitely bantering. It was giving Emily Henry. I absolutely loved it. It was written in the third person. I used to be a purely third person POV kind of girl. I absolutely despised first person POV. Now it's the other way around. So it was a little off-putting. I think it would have added a lot of dimension to the story if we did choose to go with the first person POV. But that's all just a stylistic choice on the author's end, so I totally respect that. I know when I'm writing, it is a lot easier to do it in the third person POV, so I can't exactly criticize. I think I'm gonna go write my Goodreads review, and then I'm still debating what I want to read next. It may be our book club book for the month of August, The Summer of Broken Rules, because there's been a lot of people talking about it in the Fable app. You should totally go join. So I'm getting a little FOMO from that. Okay, so it is currently around 1:15 on Thursday. I never started another book last night. I am actually talking to a couple of publishers because there are about 5 books that I got sent that I never got around to reviewing, and so since I was doing campaigns for them, I need to get that content out like yesterday. So I'm a little nervous just because while I absolutely adore when publishers and authors send me their books, it's always a little difficult when you don't enjoy a book but you're still expected to post about it, or just in my scenario, I just want to post about the books that I'm being sent. It shows that you care, it shows that you actually read the book. It's just my way of saying thank you. But like I said, I don't want to go on social media and just devalue the author's writing or discredit it. I tend to only post critical reviews on Goodreads. When I started my book talk, I would post some critical reviews over there, but I stopped doing that purely because with the increase in authors joining social media, especially book talk, you never know when a video is going to come up on their For You page. Not that I would be vicious about it, but I can only imagine what it would be like to be so excited about a book you wrote and then you're scrolling through social media one day and you see this girl talking about all the reasons she didn't like your book. That's just a decision that I personally made, especially just considering the longevity of what I'm wanting to do. But that being said, I think I am going to read a book called Ellie is Cool Now. So this is the book. I'm a little nervous because even though it is from Forever Publishing, it's also a Wattpad book. I'm a little confused as to the logistics there. I then proceeded to go onto Goodreads to mark it as want to read. Worst mistake I ever made in my entire life, because I think this is currently sitting at a 3.5 star rating. I actually think it's closer to 3.3. So essentially it is all about this TV writer Ellie. The hit show she's working on is all about high school students, but now she's being offered a promotion if she attends her high school reunion. Naturally, like most of us, she does not want to go to this reunion, okay? I personally would break out into hives. I think it's a little comedic because as a senior class president, I purely decided that my class will be on their own. I will not be planning any sort of reunion. That is on you, girly. But to my understanding, I think there is a list of tasks she needs to complete that are given to her from the producers working on the show. I don't remember. But this is around 330 pages, so it shouldn't take that long. I'm gonna try to read this all today. It is definitely about to rain, so I'm very excited for some rainy reading weather. So wish me luck. Okay friends, so I just finished reading Ellie is Cool Now. I can confirm that she is not cool. She is actually a judgmental prick. Needless to say, I did not enjoy this book. I rated it 1 star. Usually I tend to be at least a little generous with the rating. I don't ever rate books 1 star. Usually I at least give them the benefit of the doubt and go with a 2 star. No, I could not do that. I'm not sure if it's hot in my house or I'm just that enraged. But essentially, I just cannot get behind these characters or the relationships, any of the relationships, any of the characters. So I already explained to you what this book was about, but essentially, I am also a girl that does not plan on going to my high school reunion. As senior class president, I don't even plan on planning the reunion, okay? I don't care what my civil duties were. It doesn't matter what people think I signed up for. I gave my silly little speech at graduation, called it a day. All of that being said, I am also an individual that is just aching to get out of my hometown. Given the state of the economy, that's obviously not very feasible at this current moment. But even sharing those characteristics with our female protagonist, Ellie, I was wildly taken aback. Girl, please humble yourself, okay? I also want to preface this by saying everything I'm about to share is going to spoil this book. So if you're planning on reading this book, I advise you don't, but that's your prerogative, okay? If you're a masochist, go for it. Oh my god, I literally cannot even put it into words. They're homewreckers. So essentially, she is thirsting after her high school crush, Mark. Don't even get me started on the name. Nope, we're not gonna talk about it. It was a choice, not a good one. One I could get behind though. It is what it is. I've seen worse names. Whatever. So we learned that Ellie has turned him down on multiple occasions, okay? They were both crushing on each other in high school. She claims she was oblivious. Girl, let's be for real. I'm trying to be nice. I truly am. Treat people with kindness. But essentially, she is very much like me, and it pains me to say that. But both of us are so afraid of being in relationships that the second a person shows any interest in us, we jump ship, okay? I ghosted a man for 1.5 years. Let's talk about it. There's a lot to unpack there. But this man was willing to take me on a date to Barnes & Noble, listen to Taylor Swift with me, not a doubt in my mind that if I were to date a man, he would be the one. But either way, we were 2 peas in a pod. That is until she goes to her hometown, okay? Sees this man, they get a conversation going, they make a pact that he's gonna help her with her list if she reads his manuscript. Everyone wants to be a writer these days. They're clearly unaware of the writer's strike, okay? So out of touch it pains me. But then we get to the actual reunion. That is maybe 1/3 of the way into the book. Was a little conflicted on that because the reunion was the entire premise. He walks in with someone, okay? I am not living for the other woman drama. It gets even worse. She's his ex-fiance. Just wait. They've been broken up for a week. A week! And this man is already thirsting after another woman. Okay. It can't get any worse than that though, right? Wrong! So wrong. His ex-fiance is this beautiful fairy angel, okay? She wouldn't hurt an ant. So naturally, Ellie, being the pick-me that she is, doesn't care that this woman is going through it. Even makes a point to empathize with her. I was like, okay, I'm rooting for you, girl. You are a girl's girl. She's talking all about how she couldn't do this to poor Liz, his ex-fiance. She does it anyway, though. Then riddle me this. How do you end up on the couch in her apartment that she shared with her ex-fiance your fling, your high school crush, sucking face. I was mortified. Even worse, she walks in on them. So imagine, you just got done doing the work of the people, for the children. You walk in on your ex-fiance that you are still desperately in love with, kissing his unrequited high school crush that apparently he never got over. Girl. Have you ever heard No Body, No Crime by Taylor Swift? Let's talk about it. She's so much better than me, because then the ex-fiance gets all up in the male protagonist's face talking about how dare you. She's going off, as she should. But then she tells the girl, come on, we're gonna go for a ride. They get in the car. She tells Ellie, I don't blame you. This isn't on you. It takes two to tango. Two to tango. I appreciate the feminism. As a supporter of women's rights and wrongs, I cannot get behind this. I don't claim whatever energy is radiating out of this book, but then her best friend Roxy is clearly relapsing. She's an alcoholic. Ellie does not care. She's like, you'll get through this. Delusion doesn't apply here, babe. It doesn't. It doesn't just go away. She claims they're still best friends, yet doesn't care about her best friend until she's in the hospital after a near-death experience. Riddle me that. Roxy truly is God's strongest soldier, because I would not be friends, let alone best friends, with Ellie if she was the last person on earth. If I'd gone no contact for years, I still would not speak to that woman. We don't claim her. Also, what goes around comes around. How you get them is how you lose them. Did we not think about this? Then we learned that Roxy's having an affair with a married man, and Ellie, of all the people, has the audacity to preach this holier-than-thou act. Girl, were you not just getting railed on the mattress that this man shared with his fiance? I don't understand. Clearly you don't either. But essentially, she ends up fleeing the town, goes back to LA. Couple months later, Mark still hasn't contacted her. Then he walks into the boardroom. You learn that he's just been hired on as a writer for this new show. I give it 3 months tops. There's so much more I could say about this book, but truthfully, I don't want to waste my breath. It's not worth the energy. Do you remember the 5 Sauce song, Amnesia? Yeah, that's what I wish I could wake up with. No, because we all talk about coming off of a reader high, but we never talk about coming off of a reader low, because nothing will put me in a bad mood quicker than a disappointing read. I've lost all hope. I don't even want to pick up another book. Anyway, I posted all of my unhinged thoughts on Goodreads, so truthfully, I didn't even think the concept was for me. If I saw this in a bookstore, I wouldn't be the person to read it, purely because based on the synopsis, I knew it wasn't going to play out well. But as I said, I'm not even going to start another book tonight. Okay, so it is currently 1:09 in the morning. Technically, it's already Saturday. I did end up reading My Name is Iris. I didn't read the entire book though. Okay, so I'm just gonna read you the little blurb. It says, a riveting literary dystopian novel set in a near future America where mandatory identification wristbands make second-generation immigrants into second-class citizens. So essentially, Iris Prince is divorcing her husband. She is going to be a single mother. They've got a 9-year-old daughter named Melanie. Iris moved her and Melanie into this new home. Then after 3 months of living there, a wall mysteriously appears in their front yard. It seems as though Melanie and Iris are the only people that can see it. It's definitely a book that requires a lot of thought. I am personally going through it. I cried basically the entire day today, so it was a little more difficult than usual to focus. So I'm trying to be gentle with myself and say technically I did read 5 books. I didn't finish the 5th book. Does it count? Do you think it counts? I think it counts. I just want a light, digestible read. I want a silly little rom-com. I don't even think I want smut. My camera's about to die. Anyway, the point I was trying to get to was there's a lot of Spanish dialogue in this book that is non-translated. I understand the purpose behind it. That being said, I want to read this book at a time where I can truly dedicate myself to understanding and translating it. But there's a lot of difficult to digest truths. I don't want to be ignorant and DNF it purely because of that. But I did post on my Goodreads that I DNF'd it at 35% with the intention of reading it at a later date. But essentially we learned that when Iris was younger, she was friends, and I use that term loosely, with this girl named Brenda, I believe. Iris had taken her to McDonald's for the first time. Then Brenda said she was going to have her mother take her there the next morning. Then you learn that there ended up being a mass shooting at that McDonald's. So Brenda and her mother were murdered. It was definitely a hate crime. I struggle a lot with any sort of media that discusses gun violence. There is just a lot of trauma surrounding that, but I got about 100 pages in. That's about 35%. I applaud myself for at least trying. I'm also trying to be a lot more gentle with myself and understanding that it is okay to DNF a book if you don't like it. I am very much a see it through kind of girly. I also set myself into a silly little spiral the other day because I was thinking about just how many books in the world I'm not going to be able to read that could very well be my favorite books. And it actually encouraged me because it gave me the motivation to DNF books that I don't like so that there is more time to read those stories that could become my favorite. But I don't feel like I read 5 books this week. Technically 4.5. Either way, it doesn't seem real. My perception of time is so warped. But thank you for coming on this journey with me. Will we do it again? I don't know about all that. But as always, I've linked all of my socials down below. If you want to see what I decide to read next, you can go check out my Goodreads. If you want to read with me, I've got a book club over on Fable. It's called Lessons in Love, and you should totally join. We are currently reading the Summer of Broken Rules. Apparently it's also Swiftie coded, so I love that for us. But I love you all, and as always, happy reading.